What's up, everybody? We have the TFT patch notes or patch 13.9. This is the one that a lot of regional qualifiers are going to be played on, so it's a pretty important patch. So they're going to be buffing a lot of the rerolls, so Gangplank, Kale buffed up. Aatrox wasn't really played that much. Jhin, also same thing. Same with Viego. The Renegades have kind of been forgotten this set. Lastly, Camille too. And then a bunch of hero augments. Most of them are for the reroll carries, so we'll definitely check that out later. And then they're nerfing Defender, Kai'Sa, Garen, Misfortune, and then 7 other hero augments, and adjusting Gadgettine. I believe they're also nerfing Gadgettine and Laser Core, so we'll check that out in just a bit. So normals with portals, we're going to skip this section because it is more of the for fun stuff. So definitely, if you haven't tried out this mode yet, I definitely recommend that you do. And they're just doing a little bit of balancing around that game mode. But I mainly care about rank, so we're going to go on into the system changes. So 3-star legendary units now have an additional 4,000 health. They say it occurs in 2.6% of games. That's actually quite a bit. I remember when this used to be much more difficult to get. I wonder what the win rate is when you get this for them to need to buff it this much. Was it like a 80% win rate? Does it need to be 99? Does it need to be a 99.9? I'm not really sure where the line is, but that is interesting to kind of see that they actually needed buffs. So now onto the large changes. So access to 5 Gadgettines with an early emblem provided too much consistency, and that is true. That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. And I guess they want you to only be able to access that power once you get Nunu. So Defender Team Armor is being nerfed a little bit. I remember saying in my last meta snapshot, or maybe it was the one 2 weeks ago, that defenders were really strong in this meta because Bel'Veth and Samira were both being played a bunch. So yeah, defenders slight nerf makes a bunch of sense. And then Gadgettine damage reduction and damage per item is being buffed at 3 Gadgettine from 3 to 4, and then nerfed at 5 Gadgettine from 10% to 9%. I think they're changing the augment as well, but we'll wait and see on that. Units tier 1, Gangplank slight buff, Kale, Starfire, Spellblade is being buffed up too. A lot of these reroll comps, the 1-cost rerolls, the only ones we really played was Lucian when it was strong, then it got nerfed, and Ashe has been pretty good throughout the entirety of the set. As for the other ones, they're either like very mediocre or definitely below average or just flat out bad. So I think they're trying to change that and balance that out a little bit because I think a lot of the 1-cost rerolls have kind of been forgotten. Units tier 2, Camille Tactical Sweep, AD ratio being buffed up a bunch. So they're asking, like, is she a carry or a utility champion? Neither. So I always thought this was weird too, because when Camille carry was a thing in set 8, I never played it because I was like, she's a utility champion, right? Because she disarms people, but she ends up like one-tapping people in the hacker build. But right now they're saying she's neither. She sucks as a utility and she sucks as a carry. So they're adding AD ratio to her sweep, and then also increasing the disarm duration, so maybe she's going to be a little bit of both. With a lot of Renegade buffs, Jhin comp has to be good, but we'll wait to see and read them. Units tier 3, Kai'Sa seems to be very successful. When everyone but me runs her, yeah, I know that feeling. So I'm not going to lie, pretty stoked about this one. Kai'Sa star charge damage is being nerfed a little bit at 1, 2, and 3 star, and then the bonus AS is being touched a little bit too. Is this enough to make her bad? I think she'll be playable still, right? This isn't like astronomical nerfs. We'll see what they do with the traits. Maybe they change Star Guardian or Quick Draw a little bit. That would definitely have an effect on this. But from this alone, since she was like super S tier, right? Maybe she was super S tier because of Misfortune and Star Guardian Spatula, but just based on this alone, I don't think it's enough to kill the comp. It'll definitely still be at least playable. Tier 4, Aatrox, yeah, he's the forgotten 4-cost of the set. I always thought he was really cool, but then you play him and he just wasn't as good as Zac was, the champion he ended up replacing. But Soul Crush damage is being buffed up just a tiny bit at 1 and 2 star, 3 star staying the same. Darken Blade damage is being buffed up in the same manner. What did they say about him? It's the least threatening of the threats, which is pretty soul-crushing if you ask me. A bit more base damage will help here. Is it his damage that needs buffing or the tankiness? Maybe it is the damage. I feel like he does decent damage, but there are just other 4-costs that provide more utility. Tanks plus damage weren't really meant to be a thing, right? Unless they're legendary units. It's hard to kind of fit both roles, and tanks normally fill the tank plus utility role. If you look at Garen, for example, he stuns a lot of people. And if you look at Warwick, for example, he's mainly just a damage dealer, not so much a tank. If you look at the other 4-cost melee units. Jhin AD buffed a little bit. This Garen nerf is pretty big. I wonder why they nerfed him and the defender trait. The defender nerf was pretty small, but the mana nerf is pretty big because getting that second cast off, sometimes he just doesn't get it. maybe in this case. Misfortune bullet time damage being nerfed a little bit, so they do nerf Misfortune as well, and the subsequent damage is being touched also. So the Kaisa comp, definitely gonna be, again, this isn't that big of a nerf, right? It's like maybe average out to 10%. Is 10% a lot or a little? Obviously, it's only one aspect, is her damage. Just doesn't touch her tankiness or anything like that. But because Ace exists in the game, not getting that damage means that you get less Ace procs. So any damage nerf to Misfortune probably affects her a little bit harder than other champions. Viego health is being buffed up a little bit. Viego Heartbreaker damage is being buffed as well. Viego has just never been a carry in this set so far. I kind of want him to come back because they spent so much time trying to fix his targeting, and then by the time they finally fixed everything, he just kind of sucked as a unit. So I do want to see him back, even though he is a little annoying to play against, and I want to see how he does with the new Ox Force as a carry. Hero augments, so buffing worst performers and nerfing the best performers. Yeah, obviously that's going to be the case. Ashe, as we talked about before, nerfed a little bit. Lux Illuminating Singularity buffed a bit. See, they're doing a lot of changes to the 1-cost rerolls. Nasus Soul Eater heal on takedown being nerfed a bit. This was by far the best Anima squad hero augment. Jinx Get Excited base AS 35% to 30%. Yeah, maybe it was a little over buffed in the last patch. Cleansing Safeguard mana reduction is being buffed by 5. Pike Your Cut cast per reroll is being changed from 3 to 2. And then Rel Hold the Line bonus AP being nerfed by 20. Interesting. So this was by far one of the most consistent augments in the past couple of patches at 2 cost, so it is long overdue. Winds of the Wanderer bonus damage being nerfed by a ton, so Yasuo was a good comp in the last patch because they fixed his targeting, but then it got too good, so they need to nerf his damage a little bit. Relentless Assault being buffed up a little bit. Riven Triumphant Return HP Shield is being buffed up a little bit. For some reason, this one isn't that good. I thought it was because Anima wasn't that good, because this augment was pretty good long ago. But recently, I've been seeing a lot of players skipping this. So maybe it's getting picked more now. Garen Full Power to the Sword mana reduction is being buffed up by 20. I'm assuming that's to compensate for the nerf from before. My Sword is Your Shield being nerfed a bit. My Sword is Your Shield duration being nerfed like quite a bit for the duration. So that's interesting. So Garen's getting a lot of nerfs to his general tank build, but Full Power to the Sword is going to stay the same. Warwick Big Data damage per 100 HP is being nerfed a little bit. Well-Fed starting HP buffed and Well-Fed plus starting HP buffed. I think this pretty much goes in line with like what was good and what was bad. I'm trying to think of any outliers or just things they flat out forgot about. I think Nico's easy being green is a little bit too powerful. I wish they did nerf that a little bit, because whenever I'm playing that comp and I finally get that augment, I always choose it over every Twist of Fate augment and I never look back. Onto regular augments, Lasercore Heart, Soul, Gadgettine Heart, Gadgettine Crest, and Gadgettine Crown can now only appear on stage 4 too. So I'm confused why they did this, but then nerfed 5 Gadgettine over here. I feel like they could have buffed up 3 Gadgettine from 3 to 4 and then left this change and just have it so that it only appears on 4 too, because, yeah. When 5 Gadgettine first came out, people tried it and no one played it because it was just too hard to kind of get. And then there's finally a build that they can kind of play that's, again, reliant on getting these, and then they just nerf it back once they remove the ability to get these. So I feel like that's a little bit too much for the Gadgettine comp. I don't think it's going to be that great. Small changes, units tier 1. Wukong Stone Skin damage is being buffed up a little bit. Units tier 3, Jax Adaptive Strike is being buffed as well. Ooh, is this going to be a Jax meta? I've been saying it's going to be a Jax meta for like the past 2 patches, I think, but it hasn't really panned out that way. And I think now it is his time, because he's been buffed up a lot over time, and sometimes you just need to reach over a threshold to really pop off. Sometimes it's not so much like, oh, if you get a 20% buff, you get 20% better. It doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes when you get a 20% buff, but you cross a certain threshold, you might get like 30 or 40% better instead, or even like 100% better. Because sometimes it just depends if you could like live through a certain amount of damage, kill through a certain amount of tankiness, and that really just makes your champion just snowball. So I think it actually is time for the Jax meta now. Units tier 5, Ultimate Ezreal, Alternate Ezreality's AD ratio is being buffed at 3 stars. Syndra, 3 stars, will now always cast her ability 9 times, even when you don't have units on the bench. That's pretty nuts. Ornn items, finally, they're adjusting these. Death's Defiance buffed. Death's Defiance armor buffed. Obsidian Cleaver HP buff. Obsidian Cleaver AD buffed, Zonia's Paradox nerfed, and Zonia's Paradox Armor and MR nerfed. So I'm surprised they did not touch the Ornn hook. So in my early game augment guide, I'm going to update this for the new patch on Saturday. I have down here for the Ornn items, we have Portable Forge. I say Zonia's, Blitzhook, Manazane, Randuin's, Collectors, and then the rest of them. So Zonia's did get nerfed, and then the stuff got buffed I didn't mention, so that is pretty accurate so far. But Blitzhook, I feel, is just very, very powerful because not a lot of people play around it. And it forces people to play worse against other players if they do play around it. So let's say you just have the Ornn hook and you're in someone's matchup rotation. They're going to be positioning around it, so they're weaker against all the other players. It's really annoying to deal with. But overall, like, decent changes, right? I guess they can't, like, always change everything because then it'd be, like, too many things to do for a patch. And, like, sometimes if you make too many changes, you, like, undo some of the other stuff you tried to do before. Radiant items, Brink of Dawn, AD is being buffed, and the armor's being buffed. Locket of Targon Prime. This was always like one of the best Radiant items, so I'm guessing they're nerfing it. Yep. Nerf of the shield value by 50, 100, and 150. Bulwark's Oath, starting mana buffed. Quickest Silver, MR buffed. Crit chance also buffed. Wow, this is pretty important down here. Rapid Light Cannon, attack speed being buffed, and then static favor damage being nerfed. So yeah, that all makes sense too. Locket and Static were both extremely strong. Not that you get these that often because you need a prismatic game. You need to get specifically the Radiant item one, and then you need to pick certain ones. So it's pretty hard to get all these items. So if some of them are like much stronger than others, like, yeah, it's like it does need to be fixed over time. But I don't think like this is going to change the meta at all by any means. Onto bug fixes. Burno has been purged of corruption. Mecha, Feudal, Future, and Galactic Victory Burno are no longer played by the Gray of Oblivion during some animations. Fix a bug where Handed Justice was rolling an extra time on Invasion. Unoptimal Prime. Fix a bug where Exo Prime Selector was being created when trait wasn't active. I did notice this 1 or 2 games. Fix a bug where Crown and Crest could fail to grant items if you had a full bench. And then Bad Prank. Gadgetines no longer lose their damage done and damage taken boost when Prankster procs. So they are finally fixing this. I know some people have been asking me this in the comments, like when are they fixing this? Sometimes in the Discord as well, discord.gg/BunnyMuffins. And they are finally going to fix it now. Ionic Spark now deals damage correctly. This is another big bug that people have been asking me about. So those are finally fixed. I did like assume they were going to fix it in this patch, but these bugs have existed for a while. But they finally got around to it. So that is all very positive stuff. Overall, I think this patch is pretty good. They didn't touch too much stuff because, again, regional finals are going to be played on this patch, and then the World Championship is going to be played on the next patch. So they're not going to do anything completely crazy. The stuff that they are doing crazy stuff with is with the normal games. So that's where you get like all the portals and stuff. Definitely try that out if you have not already. But overall, I'm glad that they're buffing 1-cost reroll because I feel like some sets, you just don't have that even as an option. And whenever it's a 1-1-1 hero augment selection, you were mainly going for a support one or the OP reroll one. So it's like you go for the Ashe one for OP reroll, or you go for like a support one to go for more so the late game. I guess there was a time where like people went for the Lucian one too for Lucian reroll, but overall, like even if you had a ton of copies of like Kayle, for example, you never really went for the Kayle reroll build, which I thought was kind of strange. I feel like they all should be like at least like averaging a 4.7 or something like that, but some of them are averaging like 5+ or something, which I don't think is like obviously that good for forcing the reroll unless you have like a 3-star of them on stage 2-1 or something like crazy like that. Renegades, is it time for Renegades and Jax? Jhin, Viego, holy cow, that might be a thing. So definitely Giant Slayer is going to be good against the Brawlers on this patch. And then against the Renegades, maybe you just play the comp. Is it going to be 3 Renegades? Is it going to be 5 Renegades? We'll have to wait and see on that. But if you all are going to be curious on what the best comps will be on Friday, as I have done with every single Friday since like the past 2 years, we're going to be updating the tier list on the website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta. So definitely hope to see you all there. But that's going to be it for me today. Let me know your thoughts on the patch, and I will see you all in the next video.